Okay, now we are online, but unfortunately, I can only be seen alone. A person I'm talking with is not seen because he is not using camera, but using only. Okay, now we are online, but unfortunately, I can only be seen alone. A person I'm talking with is not seen because he is not using camera, but using
Why
only.
can I?
Okay, now we are online.
Can I? Dimitri, do you have the stream like open? Because like
Okay,
I
let's do
can,
like this. Let's do like this. I just forgot to tell you there is one strange option on Zoom. If a person who is using Zoom is using only like a photograph of himself, and the other one using camera, the other person will not be seen. So instead of using you have to use some still picture, like in the form of virtual camera. Can you do that?
How would that work?
Then you will be shown. Because now I only see myself alone, unfortunately.
I have no idea how I can do this.
Because now you have setting like that. You have your name and your like profile photo, and
Yes.
instead of profile photo, you make a picture. You can use the same thing, but as a picture, not as a profile photo, or as a picture, as a still picture in the virtual camera or something like that, and then you will be seen.
I mean, I only find the options like adjust background and effects, choose video filter, choose avatar.
So can you do anything or not?
I'm trying. Give me a second. I think I have to change this in the settings. I mean, it says that it should actually work with just with the profile picture, the way I have this set up actually.
The profile picture, unfortunately, Zoom doesn't want to show in this kind of setting. They only can show if you have a picture instead of, I mean, not the profile picture, just like
I know what you mean, but I have no idea how I can set this up actually. But in your recording, it is
But in the
like the way
recording,
you showed me.
I mean, in the local recording, there will be the same like
Then
before. Will both of us. But
Then
in
since we
the
have
live translation, if you don't change that, I will be only seen alone.
yeah, I understand. But if we have it in the local recording anyway, maybe we can do the stream as it is like this, because I just can't figure it out how
Okay,
this would
and
work.
then we can upload the local recording.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think this would
Clear.
suffice.
Okay,
Yes.
so I would like to apologize for a delay because we have some problem with the settings. Hope you forgive us. Anyway, we will start with the delay of 5 minutes.
Okay, so I would like to
Oh,
actually
let me just make a formal introduction, and
yeah,
after
sure.
that I will pass the word to you. Just hi to everyone, and thank you for attending this stream. I'm Dmitri Khalezov, and today is 10th of May 2025. And today, as planned, I'm going to answer questions about the nuclear demolition of the World Trade Center in 9/11 and about my research of this September 11 perpetration. And the person who wanted to make that stream with me, unfortunately, is not seen for some reason, but he is one of the subscribers of my Telegram channel. All links will be published under this video or in the first pinned comment under this video, or both, and you will find this my Telegram channel, and that person calls himself nuclear engineer, and actually he was the one who wanted to make this recording. So thank you very much for organizing this, and I hope people will be interested.
Yeah,
Now, your word.
thanks for having me, Dimitri. So I would like to start this off with like a general overview of yourself, because
Okay.
there are a lot of people, especially like in the English channel, that actually don't know like the whole story.
Okay.
I think not even myself. I also don't know everything. I know that you, or at least I think I know that you published 3 books. Is this correct? Or was there more
Yeah.
or less?
Yes. Yes. It was a free book. Yes.
And the first book was just specifically about 9/11, right?
Yes.
And then what exactly were the other 2 books about? Because from what I know, this is like more about religion and your ideology, right?
Yeah, but it was just like attachment to the book, so it was not even a separate. It was just like some parts of it which I just made like separate files, so they can hardly be called books. And I don't want to mix them up because as far as I understood that people have questions about technical or maybe conspiratorial details of the nuclear demolition of the Twin Towers. But
Yeah,
this one is
actually,
about the ideology, which if we mix that, we will go too far, I believe.
I think it is an important factor, because were some questions, especially related to the ideology part, that came up.
Okay.
So
But
that's why I thought,
my suggestion is like this, if you don't mind.
yeah,
We
sure.
better discuss only details that concern particularly like a technical and conspiratorial things related to September 11 perpetration. But if you have questions for concerning ideology or religion, we better schedule another video and we make it separate. I believe it is better.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't mind if we do actually both in this call. So
Okay. So we better not mix different topics into a
I
single
mean,
video.
I have it scheduled in. I would have this schedule like in first we talk like a general a bit about yourself, about the books, like we're doing
Okay,
now,
okay,
and then we
okay,
would start off with
okay,
I think the more ideologically
okay,
related questions, and then we would go into the technical stuff
okay.
in the end. Um, So what actually inspired you to write those books or papers? I think so. You said like since the religious ideological ones are more like an attachment to the 9/11 one. So I guess you started with the 9/11 book. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And this you actually did. What was the reason that you actually wrote this? What inspired you?
Was the
What
reason
what
that
made
I wrote the book?
what made you do it? Yeah.
Oh, I think that was a combination of reason, not a single reason. One of the reason is that as a truth seeker, whom I was from my childhood, I can't accept that such a big cheating as the 9/11 and particularly nuclear demolition of the Twin Towers and also Building 7 went hidden from people. So I believe that is too much and that is very unfair. So I want people to know about this. That is one of the reasons. A second reason, which is probably less strong, but is also one of the reasons that contributed, is that the Israeli Secret Service, together with some Americans, attempted to implicate me and to involve me into this directly and to, how to say, to cultivate me as one kind of like a scapegoat who is responsible for the nuclear terrorism and so on. And I simply can't accept that. I have to retaliate. So, to a certain extent, my book is also a retaliation for the attempt to use me in this capacity. So that's the two main reasons.
How exactly did they try to implicate you in 9/11?
They claim that I was allegedly involved in making passports for 9/11 hijackers. One, and they attempted to create some plausible story, which they didn't succeed, but they attempted that I allegedly have anything to do with selling nuclear materials or possibly even the ready nuclear weapons to terrorists. The things that was very similar that they repeated later with Victor Bout, who was arrested in Bangkok in 2008. So with me, they attempted to do that just like 5 or 6 years prior to that.
But did you know Victor before that, or did
I don't want to
you?
discuss that.
Okay.
I only can tell you that, yeah, of course I know him, but I mean, I don't want to go into details, but I
Yeah,
just,
I mean, we also know that you know him and that you were
yeah.
present at his trial. But the question was if you knew him prior to his trial, or you just kind of met him then there.
Victor Bout is very famous, and no one can escape claiming that he doesn't know him.
Yeah, I mean, on a
And
personal
secondly, Victor
basis.
Bout has the place of his residence exactly where I reside, where it's just like a very small village, so everybody knows each other. Okay, I just don't want to discuss that, please.
Okay.
Mm.
So, but you said that you actually are a witness too. I mean, you
Yes.
heard in your time in the nuclear intelligence service of the Soviet Union, you said you're a witness that people talked about the nuclear demolition of the Twin Towers. Is that
I would
correct?
not go into detail whether that is was I overhear talking or I read some paper or I just found some used toilet paper in the toilet where it was recorded. I will just not specify that.
Is there a reason for this?
But yes, there is reason for that. But I just say that during my service in the Soviet Special Control Service, which is the organization responsible for detection of nuclear explosions and for, to a certain extent, for supervising the observance of various nuclear explosion treaties, that during my service in this organization, I believe that was in the year 1988, most probably, maybe the end of 1988, or maybe very beginning of 1989. That was about 12 years before the actual 9/11 events. It came to my knowledge that under the twin towers of the World Trade Center in New York, there were underground nuclear devices intended for their emergency demolition. Without much details, only that knowledge. So that's it.
Okay, and what is the reason that you don't want to go into detail how you received this
Because I
information?
don't want shills, haters of me, and patrols, and also government. I mean, the American Secret Service agents, not particularly only the Secret Service. I mean, the CIA, FBI, and so on, who are very much interested in details of my knowledge to direct the agents to ask me this question, because I just don't want them to know that. Simple.
So I'm guessing you also don't want to talk how you ended up in the military intelligence of the Soviet Union, or what was your
Oh, this
prior
one,
education, or
this one I can explain. That one is not a big secret.
yeah, then please go ahead. I think that would also be interesting.
Okay, I used to study in the military school, which one's like 5 years course, which one's level of the university, just belonging to the military. And my specialty there was a communication engineer. And in every organization of the military, they need communication engineers, of course, because now communication is everything. And once I finished that military school, once I was graduated and given a rank of a lieutenant, I was because they have like a distribution. Once you finish the military school, they have to send you for the further service to somewhere in different kind of military. So for some
You mean
reasons, I
they
was
send you in different branches?
yeah. So for certain reasons, I was sent to the 12th Chief Directorate, which is a big organization responsible for keeping, testing, and doing all other things with the nuclear weapons. And there was a special, how to say, special arrangement, because the 12th Chief Directorate was a very secret organization. And all typical people, once they finish the military school, they will get the paper specifying their next place of service. So they will know where they have to, because once you finish the military school, they will give you like 1 month leave, like 1 month holiday. And after the end of this, you will not come back to the military school anymore. You will just go to serve as a commissioned officer in the new place. And usually you will have a paper where it is said like which regiment located where, what will be your position in that regiment, and so on. So once your 1 month leave, I mean holiday time is finished, you just go there and you introduce yourself to the commander of that regiment, and you will get your position that's specified in this paper. But for the 12th Chief Directorate, it was not so, because as it is a secret organization and they cannot do it like that. So all they do, they just give paper where it is said that at the end of your leave, when 1 month leave, 1 month holiday, you have to come to Moscow, to that street, this building number, just enter there, and you will be given instruction what will be the next. So I get exactly this kind of prescription. Not only
Okay,
me, there were quite a few people who come with me, I believe more than maybe 12 people or maybe more than 15, I think. So all of us just met there in Moscow. That was at the end of August, I think, something like that. And then I can't exactly remember the day, but it was something like the end of summer. So we just came together and we didn't know what is that. And then we came to that organization, came to the address that was specified in this paper, and then we were met there by the people who was responsible for distributing the new cadres there. So they studied our personal files, which were sent to them previously. And then they said that, okay, for you, we can take you, we can take you, we can take you, and and the other people, we cannot take you, we cannot take you, we cannot take you. So, and I was one of those that they didn't want to take for some reasons, because it was found that our commander in the military school sent us there as a punishment because he didn't like us for some reason, for some behavior and so on. And because the organization was responsible for keeping nuclear weapons, they need only the best people. And they can't accept us few of us. Just because in our file was written something like we don't respect the policy of the Communist Party or something like that. Just something bad.
Yeah, sure, I understand.
And then so those few people who were not accepted there were transferred to that service that was the special control service, because it happened like that. That special control service was a smaller organization compared to the 12 Chief Directorate, which was in different time belonged to the different big directorates. Like it was originally created in the GRU, so the Chief Intelligence Directorate of the General Staff. And after some time being there, it was transferred to the 12th Chief Directorate. And after being for some time there, it was transferred to the Chief Directorate of the Chemical Forces. And after that, some time it was transferred back to the GRU. And after that, it became independent. And after that, it was transferred again to 12th Chief Directorate. That means this was organization that they kick like a ball, from one bigger organization to another. So that is why none of the bigger commanders feel that is their part, because they always feel that it will be taken from them anytime soon and given to some other directorate. So at the time when we arrived there, this special control service was just very recently taken out from the chemical forces commander and given to the commander of the 12th Chief Directorate. So he doesn't feel that is really his property. He will just feel like that is something that given to him temporarily and taken from him out at any moment. That is why when they distribute the people to this organization, they always give them the worst people. So because they don't want to give them the best. And this organization, the Special Control Service, did not have right to request the officers to be distributed directly from the military schools, because it was not big enough. You understand the point, yes?
Yes, I do.
That is why they always get the people who were just like like left, how to say, some rejects from another organization and so on.
But how large can you say how large this organization was in the end? Or how many people? Or
okay,
just an estimate. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
no, I can tell you that was approximately like maybe around 3,000 commissioned officers. Like with the rank of the lieutenant and up in Moscow. totally with the research institute that was also in Moscow. And also they have smaller military units all over the Soviet Union and abroad, which each of them was about the size of not a regiment, but like a separate battalion, probably in size. But it was commanded by colonel, but I mean, by the status, they were like regiments, but by the size, they were like separate battalion. So you can imagine just like maybe maybe 5,000 something commissioned officers, not counting the non-commissioned officers, the soldiers and the warrant officers and other personnel like that. So you can estimate the size.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then,
and can you no just to get along, can you say what exactly your task was in this
okay, my task
department, or
was that when they rejected us in the main body of the 12th Chief Directorate, they give us new papers and sent us to this special control service, which was also located in Moscow, but another location. And once we arrived there, the people who received us, they were very, very happy because they didn't have the new, how to say, the new officers distributed to them for a long time, and they have like I mean, like they were severely understaffed in some specialties. So once I arrived there, me personally, because my living place was not so far from Moscow, and I have where to live. Actually, I mean, I can stay in my home. They don't need to give me a place to stay, unlike other people who were not from that area. They just like me for some reason, and they want me to serve in Moscow. Because usually the rules in the Soviet army was like that. Once you distributed from military school to somewhere, they have obligation to give you an apartment to stay.
Yes, no, definitely.
Okay.
That
But in
that makes sense, yeah.
Moscow, that was a problem because you know, I mean, Moscow was overcrowded and they didn't have the how
Yeah, I
to say.
imagine that would be like more of a hassle to get someone a flat in
Yeah,
Moscow than somewhere
so
else, and I mean also more expensive.
yes, it was expensive and it was not enough. And if you were if you were distributed to serve in Moscow, you have to wait like 3 or 4 years before your turn comes that they give you an apartment and so on. So with me, because I have to where to stay, because my apartment, I mean, my place to live was just 40 kilometers of Moscow, just 1 hour. So they just like me and they say, oh, we like the guy because he has where to live and we don't need to give him an apartment.
Okay, yeah, and
And they
so
offer me to serve in the how to say the central organization of that. And for the meantime, I used to serve like for a few months in I don't know, I forgot the English name, how to say that, the staff department, the one responsible for distributing the cadres, you know. So I used to serve there first for a few months, which is nothing to do with my specialty. It was just like staff work.
no, yeah,
But because of this, I knew many people and I have good connections because of this kind of work. And after that, they sent me to occupy the position of like how to say a chief of the shift in the communication center that is responsible for collecting all the information that comes from the detection of the nuclear explosions. Like for example, I have shift like 24 hours.
yeah.
And in these 24 hours, my responsibility was just to sit in the communication center and to collect all the incoming correspondence that comes by the telegraph mostly, but not only. And then most of this correspondence was the detection of the nuclear explosions, because that is the main purpose of the existence of this organization. And then I have to just collect that and pass to the chief operational officer, who was also like a duty shift. And that's most of the time I was doing that.
Okay, I see. And so after the fall of the Soviet Union, you somehow ended up in Thailand, or how did that happen?
And after the fall of the Soviet Union, I just don't want to continue my military service anymore, because I hate new regime in Russia and I don't want to serve this. So I resigned from the military, and they accepted that. And I was no longer in the military from 1992. And then I just decided that I'm a free man and I can do whatever I want. And then I moved to live first in Malaysia and then moved to Thailand.
I mean, you also said or talked a lot about in your additional papers about being a free man, and in general how the laws of Moses impacted your life. Could you maybe explain this in detail, what exactly you mean by that? Because I think this is not very well understood in the English community.
I don't know what exactly I need to explain.
Yeah, I mean, you said you're a free man, but I think you are free in like some religious kind of form. I mean,
okay.
I myself don't really understand what you mean by that. So,
okay.
So what do you mean by being free in general?
Okay. In the society, there are three categories of men. The top one is a free man. That's like the one between whom and God there is no one, like a king exactly, or the emperor. So the next above him is the God himself only. So that one is called free man. Under him, there are two groups. One is called servants, and the one is called slaves. So the servant is also a free man, but he is bound by some promise that he would serve his suzerain. That is called servant. And the slave is just a slave. He's just the lowest one that has no rights at all. So according to the standards of the military, every commissioned officer with the rank of sub-lieutenant and above nominally belongs to the class of servants, not of slaves. So they do not, they are not embraced by the sovereignty of the state, actually. That's why, for example, in the Russian military, before Putin, they did not have the state flag, because the state flag is the symbol of sovereignty. They didn't have that in the military before. They have only the regimental standard banner. So, and that one is not the symbol of sovereign, that is the symbol of suzerain. So it shows that the military in the officer's rank are not covered by the sovereignty of the state. And their passports are not the same as the passports of the slaves. So the slaves carry ordinary passports, but the commissioned officers carried the so-called service passport, blue color. The ordinary passport in Russia was red, and the service passport was blue. And it is clearly said that is the service passport. So the service passport shows that the status of a person is a servant, not a slave. It's one step up the slave.
So you're saying that the Soviet Union actually differentiated between servants and slaves, and they did this with their passports?
Of course. Not only Soviet Union, I believe most of the European states do that, but not the United States, because the United States don't have that difference. And even in the military and even in the military ships, they use the standard flag exactly like a state flag, but not in Russia and not
I
in other
mean,
European countries.
I know that we in Europe don't have different passports for different people.
No, the service passports, they were commonly used. Now, not much, but 20 years ago, the service passport were quite common thing. They were
But you
used
said like that Soviet law actually differentiated between servants and slaves and free men.
I can't say that the Soviet law differentiate that because they don't want to upset people. If the law differentiate that it will be tantamount to calling the slaves slaves. They will be offended, okay? So they
Yeah,
don't
but
do
if the law doesn't say that the slave is a slave, then
okay,
per
but they do different.
definition,
So they de facto they just follow the rules of the common law, and according to the common law, what they call citizens is in fact slaves, and what they call commissioned officers and other people who have right to carry the service passport and personal weapon, like how to say, like a sword or like a pistol.
but so you mean like the difference between a slave and the servant is that the
Yes,
servant is
that's
allowed
the
to carry a
difference between
weapon?
slaves and the servant, and that was used to be the difference between the commissioned officers as a group
But
and
why actually
non-commissioned officers and soldiers.
are
So
just, are just you
nominally,
referring to them as slaves, or why the
no,
name
no,
slaves and servants?
I'm not referring to them as slave. I'm just explaining to you what you asked me why I am free man. I explained to you because
Okay,
during the Soviet Union, I was not a slave. Okay, I was a servant.
yeah.
So I can't be inherited by a new state as a slave. Like the majority of the Soviet citizens were inherited because they were slaves. So, I mean, in the de
I
facto
mean,
stuff.
I
They
get
were
what you're saying, but I'm not sure if actually Soviet law would let anyone inherit a person. I don't think they were that backwards.
because when it comes to the inheritance of slaves, it is
I mean,
not.
I think there were no slave. I mean,
No,
essentially, you
no.
could argue that
It doesn't go
work.
by the Soviet law because the Soviet law governs a relation between Soviet citizens and Soviet state. Okay.
Yes,
But
but under which law would?
Once the
Yeah,
Soviet
sure.
Union disappeared, its law no longer works, okay? Because the
Yeah,
law disappeared with the sovereign. And in fact, Soviet Union was not sovereign, but it's just like I don't want to go into this detail, but because the sovereign in Soviet Union was each of the 15 Soviet republics separately, but it doesn't matter. So let's say that the Russian Federation during the Soviet Union time was a sovereign, okay?
yeah.
But and like Ukraine was a sovereign, Turkmenistan was a sovereign, Moldavia was a sovereign. I mean, each of the 15 Soviet republic was a sovereign, but the union was just like a union of them, and they delegated to the union an authority to maintain military. Okay, so anyone who was inside the military was automatically not a subject of any particular republic. So once Soviet Union disappeared, its law disappeared with the Soviet Union. And the inheritance of slaves is not governed by the Soviet law anymore. It is governed by the common law. So once the new sovereign was created instead of the former Soviet Russian
But
Federation,
who says there is a common law? Well, what exactly is common law?
because if there is no law,
Yeah,
or
I
no
think
law
then it's
covers
just anarchy.
some particular how to say some particular situation, the common law governs it automatically. That is the standard.
I don't think anyone in a
As long as the
where
state law doesn't govern something, the common law governs it automatically. It's a standard.
I don't think there is an international standard that if like a government fails, then everyone like just opens a book that says common law and then follows this law. Like it's just anarchy and
It's
everyone
automatic. You don't need to. Okay,
then
let's say that if some citizens of a certain country suddenly found themselves in inhabited land, okay,
yeah,
and their state disappeared, for example. So they
yeah.
will automatically build their relations between each other according to the common law. It's just a standard.
Yeah, but what exactly is the common law? The common law defines something with
In European tradition, a common law is the law of Moses, more or less.
but I think the laws of Moses said that I don't know, I shouldn't lie and I shouldn't kill. And I think if
Yeah.
there is a civil war breaking out,
do.
those are the first two things I probably would do. I would probably get a gun and kill as much people as possible, and then become myself the new local warlord, create a power structure, and then crown myself king if possible. So why would anyone with a clear understanding of power dynamics actually follow the laws of Moses in an failed state?
You see, as I told you from the beginning of this video, if we go into this one, we will go too far from the main topic.
I see.
And
Yeah,
we are already on this way. You
let's
see,
continue.
you asked
Yeah,
me how I ended up serving in the special control
yeah,
service.
I see.
Then you asked me why
Yeah,
I
let's
and
you
now
made a
we are
point.
going already to discuss the applicability of the law of Moses. That is really
Let's
too far.
continue. So you just said you ended up in Thailand, and according to the laws of Moses, you're a free man, right?
No, it's not that. Because I was a servant in the Soviet Union, not a slave.
Okay.
After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, I cannot be inherited by the Russian Federation because of my status,
Yes.
not a slave. So,
Okay.
as long as
No.
you are a servant, you were bound by your obligation to serve Soviet Union. And if the Soviet Union no longer exists, and you are not a slave, unlike other Russian citizens who can be inherited by the new Russian Federation, or I cannot be, so I have no more obligation towards the Soviet Union, which no longer exists. And I can't be
Okay. No.
inherited as a slave by the Russian Federation because I'm not a slave. So
Okay.
I'm
I see.
automatically a free.
Let's discuss this, especially in another call later, maybe another live
Okay.
stream. But
Okay.
let's just make a quick follow-up question. So there was a famous video with you and Armin where you talked about how one would actually become a free man after he is a slave, and you said he would have to call his head of state or contact him and then tell him that he would give his passport back. What exactly was that about?
Not about the passport. I mean, technically,
I
every
mean,
slave,
that's what you said in the video. You said you should call the prime minister and then just tell him,
not the
I just
prime
want to give the
minister,
passport.
no, head of state.
Head of state, whatever.
Yeah.
But the prime minister is
No,
factually.
not the prime minister, not the prime, because
I mean,
prime
it depends
minister
on the
is not
country.
the prime minister is not responsible for the sovereignty of the state. The sovereignty rests with
For
the president only, or with the king. So if you want to get rid of your so-called citizenship, you have to contact the head of states that physically represents the sovereignty of the state and ask him that to leave you, I mean, to rid
see,
you from the so-called citizenship.
see, the problem with this is that this is actually not true because you can't get rid of your citizenship. This is not allowed that there shouldn't be any person on earth that doesn't have a citizenship. That's like per law, international law.
No,
It's not
no,
possible.
it is not the international law. It is only the Convention of the United Nations dated in 1993.
Yeah, that is international law.
No, it's not the international law. It's the convention that was signed by many countries, but I'm not sure if by all. That says that you can't deprive a person of his so-called citizenship unless there is a guarantee that he is getting a so-called citizenship of another sovereign. Basically, it is like this, but it's not obliging in 100%. So it's up to the discretion of the head of state. If he doesn't care about the United Nations, he can do. But it will be violation of convention, but it doesn't matter. Many people violate convention, so what?
Yeah, because this led many people in the English channel to believe that you actually tried to resign your citizenship of
No,
Russia.
no.
So you
They
still
just cheat themselves because they don't know that I have never been the citizen of the Russia, in fact. Because in the modern state, a so-called citizenship is given to a person, any physical person from the moment of their birth, Even they are just like 1 month old, they are citizens already, but not in the Soviet Union, because in the Soviet Union, there was different approach. So because they were revolutionaries traditionally, so they know what the human rights is. And they wait until a person becomes 16 years old. And once the person becomes 16 years old, that person goes to receive a passport. And only from that moment he becomes a citizen of Soviet Union or of particular Soviet Union republic.
But you were a citizen of the part of the Soviet Union that is now Russia, right? You said you lived in Moscow.
I am not going into this detail, but I just what happened with me is that I entered the military school at the age of 16, because the majority of the people enter military school at the age of 17 or later. But in my case, I was just 16. So at the moment when I have to become a citizen of something, I become a military servant. So this just was, I just managed to skip that step. So nobody can find any document showing my signature that I agree to become a citizen of anything at the age of 16, because I did not. I didn't sign anything. And when people study in the military school, they have a status of a military serviceman equal to a soldier, not to an officer yet, to a soldier only. But they are not technically citizens. They are just like kind of special status, something in between the citizen and the military man. But once I finished once I graduated from the military school, I was given a rank of a lieutenant, and I was promoted to the different status, because, as I told you, the commissioned officer in Soviet Union from the rank of the sub-lieutenant and
Yeah, that's what
were
you're talking about.
servants,
Okay,
not slaves. Okay,
sure,
so
sure,
I have
sure.
never been actually a citizen of Russian Federation. Never. Okay, never in my life. I don't need to
So
renounce it because I didn't have it.
if you're not a citizen of Russia
No.
and you never were, how did you actually manage to leave the country? Because as far as I know, you would have to have a passport to actually go to another country and
First of
get a.
all, I used to have a service passport. Okay.
Yeah.
And I used to have another passport, which I managed to get from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That was valid for the next 5 years after the dissolution of Soviet Union. It was valid for more than 5. I think it was valid until 1997, like the end of 1997. And in addition to that, I know how to get hold of other documents. So in
Yeah,
addition to the Russian
and
passport, I
this.
used to have service passports from another countries and even diplomatic passport. So
Yes, that's
I mean,
basically what Armin told us, because Armin told
yeah.
us you don't want to accept a Russian passport, and so
Mhm.
you actually use forged documents
Yes, I use the
so you
fake
can stay.
passport also. Not only fake, I use the original service passport from another country also. And I use the diplomatic passport from another country also. And when I can't when I can't obtain it, I use just a fake passport from some other countries. So I mean, it was a solvable problem.
But why would you go through all that hassle if you could just like get a normal passport and a visa?
Look, I don't like to discuss details of my personal life because it just satisfy not only the curiosity
Yeah,
of
can you maybe
the
just say,
genuine
is this
people, but also the curiosity of
just tell
police.
me if this is because of your religious beliefs or just a
I
hint
just don't
in
care
which.
about I don't want to be a slave, simply like that.
Okay, but like you said, the common laws of Moses, so this would classify theoretically as a religious belief, right?
Mm,
Or ideology.
I didn't understand the question.
Is so like I think for all practical intents and purposes, it wouldn't matter what you do. But it seems like this you just don't want to be a slave is just a religious belief of yours. And so you think it's fine if you.
I still don't understand your question. I'm really sorry. It's not the matter of belief or not belief. I just want to be like that. I don't want to be slave. Okay, simple. I don't want to have any passport from any sovereign.
No, but just
because having a passport will automatically mean that you are slave of them, and I don't want.
Okay, and that's why you basically use forged passports, right?
I don't use the forged passport right now. I used to use it like a long time ago.
Yeah, because
Like
Armin
at
said
the
it's
end of the
getting more
90s.
and more difficult to actually obtain a visa,
Yeah.
and that's why it's
Yeah, but the problem is I'm not going anywhere, so I don't care.
okay. So this also leads us back to your 9/11 book, because there you discussed like Mike Harari, and as far as we know, Mike Harari is actually a public person, and
Sorry,
there are
say again?
Mike. It's about Mike Harari, the
Uh-huh.
Mossad spy, and the guy you claimed is the actual real Harari. We figured is actually like a passport or like a document forger from Thailand. So we figured you probably just got your fake documents from him, and for some reason you implicated him in your book as Mike Harari. But probably the guy was never Mike Harari, and it's just some random guy from Bangkok that is a passport forger.
Can you formulate your question more exact and more precise, and to tell me what you
Yes.
want?
Do you actually think the guy in your 9/11 conspiracy is the real Harari, or is this just like a passport forger from Thailand that you met there?
What means a passport forger from Thailand?
A
Do you know
guy
that
that
do you know that forging the passports actually one of the specialties of the Israeli Mossad?
I mean, I
so
think that's
so it doesn't
especially from every
contradict each
intelligence.
other. If the guy is from
Okay, yeah,
Mossad, he can be
then just
also the
let
forger in the
then
same
just
time.
let me ask a different question. Then, so,
Okay.
did you receive a fake passport from the Israeli intelligence service?
Fake passport, not. But fake passports I got in some other way. But the original passports, yes, I received from.
But not from the guy you said that is Mike Harari. It was a
Yes,
different
from
guy.
Mike Harari, exactly. But that passport was not fake.
How come? So how did you get your real one? What do you mean, not fake?
So, but why you say that passport is particularly fake? The fake passport I can do in Bangkok
No, I
without.
mean because like there were police documents that actually said he's like a document forger and he was imprisoned for this. So that's why I am assuming it was a fake passport.
No, it's not nothing to do with me. So what do you mean about that? He helped me to obtain the Uruguayan diplomatic passport, but that was not fake. The
You mean
fake
it was
passport I can do without him. It's not a big problem in Bangkok. There's a big business.
So he got you a real passport, but it wasn't like supposed to land in
Of
your
course, it's
hands.
real. Who
Sorry?
will make the fake diplomatic passport? Of course, it is real.
Yeah, I mean real in the sense that the institution that actually hands the passports out would give it to you without an
I don't know your
intermediary.
definition of the fake passport. The fake passport is like when you printed out the book of the passport, which is not may come from the factory.
Fake in the sense a diplomatic passport should only be received by an actual diplomat, and you are
No,
not a
it's not
diplomat.
true. It's not true. It can be received by anyone as long as the.
Yeah, but like Mike Harari is like not the person that legitimately hands out passports, because he is like
Yeah, but he has a good connections in Latin America.
yes, but then that's actually like there's an illegal part in this, so it is technically like you received illegally a real passport, so to say.
Usually, I not go deep into this one because I simply don't care about this. This one
Okay,
was the old
now then,
story, and whether it was fake and whether it was properly registered or not. And in fact, I got from him 3 passports. Okay, so first and the second, and after they changed the format of the passport from the big size to the standard new size, I get the third one.
okay, I see.
And all of them were diplomatic from Uruguay.
Okay.
So then, what other question about Mike Harari you want to ask?
No, I think that we can close the chapter for Michael. I mean, how exactly did you meet the guy?
Because I was introduced to him through some other Mossad agents.
But this was while you already were living in Thailand.
Yes.
And how did you meet those other Mossad agents? Was this like from a job
Because when
or?
I came to Bangkok, I was involved in some criminal activity, particularly with the fake passports. And you know that Mossad is one of the biggest player on the black market of the fake passports. So if you try to go there, you will inevitably encounter someone from Mossad.
Okay, yeah, but why were you involved in criminal activities at all?
Because if you are a stateless person and you don't care about the state, and you don't feel that you are a slave and you feel like you are free man, you can do everything. And everything most of the time tantamount to a criminal thing. So,
Okay, yes, but what things then would the state say are criminal that you did?
so do
And
you want
you don't.
the police update their files on me, or what? Why you ask this?
No, just general curiosity because that was like information that we
It will
never
not
had.
change anything. It will just satisfy the curiosity of the people who really don't need to know that. But in the same time, it will also
As I
update
said,
the
you don't
files
have
of
to
the police who
you,
listen to that.
you don't need to answer the questions. I just ask. If you don't want to answer, then you don't answer.
Yeah, but I explained to you the reason why I don't want to answer.
Yes, sure. Um, so you also wrote a lot about the Freemasons. How exactly do you define the Freemasons?
Freemasons is the former Knight Order of Templars who were created, I believe, like more than 800 years ago, and
Yes, and do
who
you still think they are relevant today, right?
went underground and ended up changing their names from the Templars to the Freemasons.
Okay, you specifically said that they are like created the CIA and the Mossad and are like behind the capitalist, globalist turnover of the world, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
How do you know that?
Because when I was young, I liked to listen to the old communists who explained this to me.
So this is like from stories.
Learning from elders.
Okay, and they did explain this in exactly that detail.
More or less the one I explained to you, I was explained by others.
Okay. You also wrote a lot about women and women rights, and especially you had like a classification system for men. You said there are like three types of men. You can either be an alpha, a beta, or an omega man. What kind of man would you consider yourself
As a free
to be?
man who is not fall under the classification of slaves.
Yeah, but you specifically said in your text they are free, and you can either be an alpha and beta or an omega, and
No, that is only for that is only when we talk about the slaves. The free men, they stay away from this classification.
so how do free men handle women? And is there a marriage for them, or how does that work?
Yeah, if you can find a woman that is equal to you in status, like
So
a
you would
daughter of a
never
free
actually have
man.
sex with a woman that is not free,
The
so to
sex,
say.
you can buy a prostitute. Why you need to care about that?
Why would you pay money if you just can get it otherwise for free?
Because when you pay for the sex that is proper, and when you get sex as a how to say as a gift to you that is improper, because that
Why?
is because it's illegal.
In which sense is that illegal?
Because you can have a sex only with the body that legally belongs to you. If you buy a prostitute, she belongs to you for the paid time, like for 1 hour or 2 hour or overnight or whatever. But when you have a wife, the wife legally belongs to you either. But when you just try to have sex which is with someone who is not a prostitute and not your wife, you are having sex with a whore. So that is illegal.
But
Because
like
her body
illegal
doesn't belong to you.
illegal for in which country? Because like I think there is no law
In every country.
actually.
I mean, we not talk about the legality.
Is this like is it like illegal in the common law?
Yeah, it's
But
illegal.
because I think like
Yes,
constitutionally
yes,
this is not illegal.
yes. Because
So but this
because
law
your woman must belong to you. If she doesn't belong
no,
to you,
I see. So this is like basically in the sense of the common law. This is the case. But like who enforces common law? Because
nobody,
I
nobody humans, it just works on its own. You don't need to enforce it.
yeah, I mean it works for you, but I personally wouldn't care if there was no law and like a girl wants to fuck me, I would just go for it. You know, I don't really care if technically under the laws of Moses
Okay,
she would belong to
imagine
myself.
you imagine it with the consuming of food. Let's say that you went to a food shop, to the food store, and bought some dish that you want to consume. You pay money,
Yeah.
it's yours. Okay, you come to your home, you just put it in a microwave. Okay, you reheat it and you eat it. So that is legal. The other option is you go to the restaurant, you order your meal, you pay for it, and you consume it, and you feel like you are right. Okay. But imagine that instead of buying a food in the food store or paying for the food in a restaurant, you just come out as a beggar and just request people, please give me a food, I'm hungry. And they might give you some kind of food and you can eat it, but your feeling will not be the same, okay? Because you not feel like you are a man and you not feel like you are a human. You feel like you are just beggar who has to be despised. Okay, so the same thing is applicable to a sex. When you beg for a sex from a woman that doesn't belong to you and you not pay for it,
I
it's
mean,
the same as you beg
that
for
would be
food.
actually true if I would beg the woman to do it, but I don't beg. They just like do it like willingly, you know.
Yeah, but some
If you
beggar
just
also
talk to
can
them, it's
don't need to
like if
pay.
I would go on my knees in front of her and take a man, please don't, please like fuck me, then this would be like pathetic, and I would absolutely agree with you that then I would feel less of a man. But if I don't do it and she just
Okay,
gives
we
it to me
anyway, you asked
willingly,
my opinion. I already
no,
told
no, sure,
you.
sure, yeah, the question's answered. Not perfect. Let's just continue. So uh, the next one would be, you know, like a year ago, I think, Troy Troyhart actually said, and I quote here, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you if you don't answer the questions, and then you actually answered questions. Do you feel like you're submissive to Troy, or are you afraid that someone actually would beat the shit out of you?
Of course, I'm not afraid. I just don't care.
So, but
The problem is that all those idiots I don't even consider as humans. They're like animals to me. But as
yeah,
long as
but
their question can be interested, I think that answering them will be interesting just for other people who might listen to that.
okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Uh, regarding the Masons, you said you know this from old stories, basically, or your knowledge mostly or
My
entirely
knowledge
comes from
mostly
old.
comes from the old people who explained this to me when
Okay,
I
yeah,
was
sure.
a child.
Yes,
Because
and
I remind you that publishing books on Freemasons was prohibited from around the time of the Second World War and right up to the very end of the 90s. So the Freemasons allowed to publish books about themselves only at the very, very end of the 1999 and in the new century. So now, yes, you can see a lot of books about the Freemasons, but you have to understand that this comes by their permission. And if you come to any bookshop like in 1997, you will not find even a single book because that was prohibited. So all my knowledge come only from the people who explained this to me.
Okay, yeah, I see. What would you say is like you said like the intelligence services tried to implicate you in 9/11, right?
Yes.
In the beginning of the
Not
internet.
only in
Uh,
9/11, in the nuclear terrorism in general.
yes, no, sure. But and you also said like or wrote in your book that the intelligence services are controlled by the Masons. Is that correct?
I can't hear the last sentence.
Are controlled the intelligence services you said are controlled by the Masons. Is that correct? Or I think you wrote
Yes,
that in your
correct.
book.
Because like organizations like a CIA or Israeli Mossad, they are just like affiliate with the Freemasons. They are just like part of them. I mean, the Mossad and the CIA, they are more belonging to Freemasons than to respective state they officially belong. I mean, CIA belongs more to Freemasons than to United States of America, and the Mossad belongs more to Freemasons than to the state of Israel. I mean, in this sense.
So one could reasonably assume that actually, or say that actually the Masons are trying to implicate you in nuclear terrorism and the 9/11 attacks, according to yourself.
I'm not quite sure from which level it came. It might come from just the operatives of the Mossad. I don't know because I don't know their kitchen. I don't know on which level it was decided. On the levels of the supervisors after these services, or on the level of the some lowest operatives, and I don't know. I cannot.
Yes,
I
I
can.
understand, but would you consider like the Masons as you see them yourself as your enemies or just the intelligence services?
Uh, I can't say that I consider them as my enemies because they don't actually do anything directly wrong to me. Even now, you see, they tolerate me.
Okay, because like there was a question from Andrew
Yeah.
Tierno, and he said that, and I also figured this myself, that it seems like you are opposed to the Masons, and that the Masons seem to be like high-ranking government officials, and he actually traced back a lot of connections, or like connections they can reasonably where there can be reasonably made connections from high-ranking government officials who we would assume that they are Masons, if such a thing exists. And one of them would be Donald Trump. And you specifically like congratulated Donald Trump to his presidential victory. And it seemed like a little bit odd that you would do that if you were actually opposed to the Masons and like the capitalist power structure in general, because he is basically part of this. And there is not really one person that is more capitalist than
And
Donald
don't you
Trump
just
himself.
consider it as a mockery from my side? I just want to use this opportunity to attract people's attention
No, that's why I
to
wanted
my
to ask.
view.
Because I think like I actually never considered this as a mockery. I thought it's like more like you do this because you get more attention and more
Course, I just
positive
use it
feedback from
opportunistically
the.
because I want to attract more attention to my explanation about the nuclear demolition of the World Trade Center. It's as simple.
So okay, so you would admit to it that you actually use this to attract right-wing conspiracy
First,
theorists
first of
from
all, to
the
make
United States.
mockery. First of all, to
Okay.
make mockery. Second thing is just to use it opportunistically to attract more attention.
Okay, I see. Then the next question is from Khalid Abdul. Do you actually think skinwalkers are involved in 9/11?
But I don't know who is that.
Skinwalker, like that's a conspiracy theory that like reptile-like animals are
Ah, you mean that one,
uh
the so-called the aliens who live in the other planets and who fly
no,
to the Earth
I
in the
don't,
flying
no, 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 I
flying
don't,
saucers?
no, I don't think it's like aliens from other planets. I think it's like specifically just advanced reptile people living with like human skins, inside human skins
I
that
don't
look like
believe in
humans.
that.
Okay.
It is just out of the scope of my beliefs because, in my opinion, people are created by God in His own image and in His own appearance, and all people, what we call human beings, came from Adam and Eve, and that's it. I don't believe in any reptiles or even any aliens or anything like that.
Okay. No, I mean that was not to confuse this. I think he meant it in the way that those are reptiles that kill humans and then like put on their skin and it
I
somehow
don't believe
looks
it, but for me,
okay.
it's just
So that's definitely a no there.
this one is too much for me. I don't believe in this kind of.
Okay, no, sure. Okay, then let's get to the technical questions. So Marcelo asked that you said the thing that actually hit the Pentagon was a cruise missile that was extracted from the sunk submarine Kursk. Is
Yes,
that right?
yes, correct.
And here the question is, why would someone actually do this if it's like probably financially easier to actually just build or buy a cruise missile that is not on the bottom of the ocean and to get this working again? So why would they actually go to the Kursk and actually try to extract a cruise missile if they could easily like purchase one on the black market from former
I
Soviet
don't think they
states?
can
Or
purchase this kind of missile on the black market because that is the missile with a nuclear warhead, and this kind of thing are not sold on the black market. It's not like AK-47.
no, but you could just build one, and the Americans have like nuclear warheads on their themselves, and they're
If they
also
build it
the
themselves, then it will not be an enemy missile, but
so
the
so
one.
you actually think the nuclear warhead exploded in the Pentagon?
No, I cannot think like that because its nuclear warhead was 500 kiloton, and if it is exploded in the Pentagon, we will not see a city of Washington anymore.
Yeah, so why even so there basically was no nuclear warhead, so
No, I
where
think it was the nuclear warhead. Otherwise, they will not make the such big story. It just didn't explode. It
so you
didn't
mean
explode.
they actually wanted to nuke the Pentagon, but it just didn't work?
No, they didn't want it to explode simply. So there was
So
a nuclear warhead which they did not want to explode, and it did not explode, according to their wish.
so but if they don't want to make it explode, why then even put it on the missile in the first place?
Because if that missile will not be, if this missile will be without nuclear warhead, then they can't make that all that hysteria following the 9/11.
Why not?
Because
I
that
mean, this was
nuclear
like
missile actually made them so hysterical, and they needed that.
I think like 99% of the public doesn't believe there were nukes and they still lost their shit. So I think the hysteria is explainable without. But yeah, that's just a
Yeah, but
question. That's what you think. So
this production was not intended for general public. It was intended for
yeah,
the
so you mean like that's why the government lost their shit.
of course.
Okay. Um, Then you also said in your 9/11 book that every explosion that looks like a mushroom or produces a mushroom cloud is actually a nuclear explosion. But I would actually beg to differ and tell you that this is just basic thermodynamics. And if you would just go outside and blow up like 20 liters of gasoline, you would also see a mushroom explosion.
Yes, but it is not exactly so, as you say. Some some nuclear explosion they have very typical mushroom cloud, but it doesn't mean that the other powerful explosion cannot produce mushroom cloud. It can.
No, but I think that's exactly what you wrote in there. But okay. Then let's go to the next one. You also said that the nuclear weapons or the nuclear bombs under the World Trade Center, the mechanism for how this actually worked is that it pulverized the steel and basically everything in there, right?
Yes.
And then I think you said in the group, the question was, why didn't the windows shatter when the shockwave actually went through the towers and pulverized it? And this, I think you dismissed and said it wasn't a shockwave, it was
Crushing wave or compression wave.
a compression wave. But here I would say that a compression wave is actually slower than a shock wave, so there is absolutely no chance that the compression wave could pulverize anything. And if like you can calculate the energy that is needed to actually atomize steel and basically every material, and the energy required to actually pulverize it is so high that if a shockwave powerful enough to actually accomplish this went through the towers, this would basically like you would see this, the air would glow, like this would be plasma, you know, also this, that there wouldn't anything still be standing in Manhattan. This would just look like a normal nuclear explosion. And this is like from a physics standpoint. There are actually
let me explain my position on this. You see,
I mean, no matter how you put it, and I know your physical explanation, and that like
no,
different...
I will not put the physical explanation. I will put the logical explanation this time, which will be much more simple than the technical explanation.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so you see, I am a person who claims to know for sure. Wait a second. Sorry. Okay, I'm the person who claims that during my service, my military service as a commissioned officer in the Special Control Service, which is the department responsible for the detection of nuclear explosions and also for controlling of observance of nuclear explosions international treaties, it came to my knowledge about 12 years prior to 9/11 that under the twin towers of the World Trade Center, there were nuclear demolition devices. It's like underground nuclear devices intended for the emergency demolition of the twin towers. That's it, okay? So this is my first point. My second point is that the place of the destruction of the twin towers was called Ground Zero in approximately let me finish. In approximately less than 12 minutes after the collapse of the first of the two towers. Okay, so this my second point. My third point is that the American government was so unhappy with the definition of ground zero that it undertook to reprint almost all explanatory English dictionaries, including those in England, Canada, and Australia, in order to expand the definition of the ground zero starting from the year 2002 and later. So if ground zero used to have only one single meaning in between 19 maybe 50s and 2000 at the end of 2001, now it has 5 to 7 new meaning. Yeah, wait, let me finish. This is the third point. And the fourth point, that the people who worked at ground zero suffered from typical consequences of chronic radiation sickness, such as leukemia and other things, other forms of cancers that are related to the alpha radiation. Okay, so these are 4 points which I drew attention of the public to. Okay, I have to remind you that I am a not nuclear engineer. I am not a demolition expert. I'm not a physicist. Okay, I'm not a doctor of physics or of chemistry or of anything like that. I'm simply a communication engineer by my profession, which is quite far from nuclear explosions and demolition works. Okay, so my attempt to explain how the underground nuclear explosions can be used to create the crushed and damaged zone and to create a crushing wave or like a, how to say, compression wave is a bonus. I didn't have obligation to do that, okay? So my obligation was fulfilled by stating that I am a former officer from the department responsible for detection of nuclear explosion. And 12 years prior to 9/11, I knew about the existence of the nuclear demolition devices under the World Trade Tower. You believe me or you don't believe me, I don't care, okay? I fulfilled my obligation and my conscience is clear. And in addition, I pointed out that the place is called Ground Zero, and the American government attempted to reprint the dictionary. So that is all, I believe, by revealing all of it, I fulfill my obligations. I have no obligation to explain technical details. Why the glass was not shattered, why the other building did not collapse together with the Twin Towers. It is simply none of my business. So my explanation is very simple. I have no obligations to explain that.
Yes, I would agree with you there, at least with your first point. But the second and third, there is an issue with this because, like in the movie that came out 1998, A Perfect Murder, there was a use of the phrase Ground Zero, and it was used in the way that it would be used after 9/11. So this would actually refute your point
I
that
don't
you
care.
made with the dictionary.
If somebody
Yes.
wants to refute my points, I really don't care. So you want to refute my points? Okay, up to you. You don't
Okay,
want to
and
believe me? It's also up to you.
yes, no, I just thought I mentioned that, and the second one is like, well, your third point that there was actually a study and regarding the air quality and the debris of 9/11, and there were no traces of radioactive material found, and all the cancers that
So
the 9/11 first responders got actually can be explained just through toxic fumes that came from normal non-radioactive materials.
the problem is that I fulfilled my obligations. Okay, I feel
Yeah,
my conscience is
in my
clear.
personal
If
opinion,
somebody
it's just
want to
like,
refute my theory, want to debunk me, don't want to believe me, want to think that I'm a cheater, I don't care.
no, I
Simply.
mean, you get paid and you get donations, and I think you should be more open to
Donations I get
opposite
very
opinions.
donations I get very little, especially in the recent time. And the most, how to say, the most aggressive person who donated, that was Andrew Tierna, if you know him, who who used to donate like $300 little by little, like $5 each time, maybe $10 each time in the course of 10 years. Which I believe not a big money for an American. So I got from him like $300, and he started to accuse me that I am a liar, and he donated to support my work. I asked his bank account and transferred it back. So he got back the $300, and I remind you that $300 received in a single moment, that is a big money, okay? But when you pay like $10, $5, you don't feel that. So actually, I made him rich by returning him his money. So nobody can accuse me that I cheat the
I mean,
people by
yeah,
collecting
I
money.
think it's quite a stretch to say you made him rich because you didn't pay him interest on any of his money that
What
he
kind
sent
of
you.
interest are you talking about? He just
If
give me money not to lend with interest. He give it to me as a donation.
No, but if you actually
Well,
like you definitely gave him less money than he gave you because money
no,
becomes less
no,
money becomes less valuable over time
no,
because
no,
there's
no,
always
no,
an
no.
interest rate, there's
If you
always
give the
inflation,
three hundred
and you
dollars in a second, you are rich because the $300 is something you can use immediately as a big money. But when you just donate like $5 and then next 3 months another $5, it's just like
yeah, but in
nothing.
the end you
You
gave him
don't
less
feel.
money than he gave you as per financial
Oh, I
definitions.
can send him another $100. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I
If
think that
it's really need.
that would be definitely a
I can
fair
consider.
thing to do.
I can consider that.
That would be very nice. Yeah, I could definitely live with this. This would be a nice gesture.
So any kind of people who think that I collect money for donation without deserving it, especially so aggressive as Andrew, of course I will pay him back.
Okay, yeah, that's very nice of you. So I think that's basically it from my side. I think you wanted to answer some other questions from your paid
No, but
subscribers
maybe
or
you have
something.
another questions you can ask, no problem.
No, I think that's it. Maybe we could do another round, but just like focus more on
Okay,
the ideological part and the
okay.
religious one. Is this
Okay,
maybe
so then
possible?
let me move to, let me ask
But
you, let me
maybe not
see.
today, but like sometimes
Okay,
else,
okay.
if we
Okay, let
could
me
maybe
see if
establish
somebody
it.
asked me paid questions. Hmm, okay, so. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, so now I will try to answer questions from the chat pane on the right of the stream. Okay, Matt Neville asks, Dmitri, did you ever see the gamma press video of what looked like a rocket or missile shot from the top of the smoking towers towards the ground? No, I didn't see it. And I don't see any reason why it should be like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Matt Neville again. Dmitry, are the same people who arranged the demolition of the towers still in power? And can you name them? I don't know. I think Nelson Rockefeller already died, I believe. Or I'm not sure. Because he is the one who promoted the project from the beginning. And the Controlled Demolition Inc. companies, I think, is still in operation also. And the one who personally gave the final order to start the demolition is the Richard Clark. I believe he's still alive. Maybe he's not in the power anymore, but he's still alive. I didn't hear that he died. Alice, Dmitry, please make a post of this live broadcast on your Russian Telegram channel for more people to join. I already did that. I published that in my Russian Telegram channel. That was advertisement, so people knew about it. Okay. Yuri, hi, just turned in from Krabi, Thailand. God bless you. Thank you so much, and God bless you too. Skeptical narratives. Thank you, Dmitry, for opening my and others' eyes to the truth. Everything else is a red herring. Thank you. Erwin Aronson. What was the main geopolitical goal of this operation, in your opinion? I think it was not geopolitical goal. It was the goal of to further globalization. They just want to take sovereignty from the still sovereign state and make the global government and like a single global state. So this is the main point. It's just a globalist project. It's not the geopolitical one. Eloque de la raison dure. I'm sorry for my French. Dmitry, do you know that Colin Rourke, a top British mathematician recently deceased 2024, considered your book as particularly valuable? Question mark. No, I didn't know that, but it's very interesting. If you have any information about that, I would appreciate if you send it to me. I will publish that information. Because as you can see, the people are still unhappy with my research and they are criticizing it. So if some famous mathematician supports it, I will be very happy. You know, nuclear 911 strikes a nerve when you can't even discuss it in conspiracy forums without getting downvoted. Yes, I understand that because all those conspiracy forums belongs to the shills appointed by the US government. So, and this topic is prohibited to discuss. You can discuss anything, but not the truth.
Dimitri, may I ask some other questions? I just thought of one. What is the difference between a shill and just a person that is disagreeing with you?
If a person disagree with me, it is okay. But the problem is that the person who disagree with me also automatically disagrees with the definition of ground zero that was awarded to the destruction area of the World Trade Center. This is the first point. And the second point is that in your slavish society, it can be common not to believe a word of a slave because it's just normal. The slaves can cheat you. But the problem is I'm not a slave and I have never been caught lying. So when I say something, you simply have no reason to doubt my words because human
I mean, but I could,
a human belong. I mean, a human has how to say a privilege to be believed. Because when you go to the court of law, and you testify before the judge believes you. So, because he considered that you are not a slave and you should not be tortured before the court. But as you probably know, when a slave testifies in the court, he has to be tortured because the testimony from the slave before the court can only be extracted under the torture.
May I ask where do you got this information on the
That
common
is a
law
common
from?
law. That is a
Yeah,
common
but how do you know that someone would have taught you that, right? It's not like the.
because I know history well. I study history and I know common law very well. So when a
But
slave
when exactly
before
was
the
it? When
court,
did you?
he must be tortured. But a human who testify before the court must be believed. So
Yeah, but what happens like in the hypothetical scenario that I would just like give my passport back to the head of state, then I'm no longer a slave, and then I tell you you're full of shit. Actually, in this movie, the definition of ground zero is different, and you also say something different. That means one of us must be lying, but we are both like free men. So
okay, you see, let's say that if I advance a theory that in my opinion, the
so I mean,
twin
you
towers.
believe
No,
you're right.
listen, let me finish. Let me
Okay,
finish.
okay.
If I advance a theory saying that, look, in my humble opinion, the twin towers maybe were demolished by the nukes because the place is called ground zero. And because that I believe that the crushing wave or the compression wave from the underground nuclear explosion goes this way, okay, and does this job. But I didn't say that, okay? I say that I am a former officer of the Soviet Special Control Service. And 12 years prior to 9/11, it came to my knowledge within the premises of the Special Control Service that there was an emergency nuclear demolition scheme under the Twin Towers. So you can argue with my theory, but that is not a theory, it is my claim. I just say that it is the fact. Yes, I was a
Yeah, you
servant,
say it is a Dimitri,
a
if you
military
claim
serviceman and
is
that,
this
and
your
I knew.
claim, but it's still no fact. If it's actually a fact, then you would have to have empirical evidence. But all you have is like a witness testimony that someone actually
Do you
told you
understand
there.
that the witness testimony is the primary evidence in the court? If you come to the court, at
Yes,
least
but
in Thailand, I don't know about
but you
other
never
countries.
said from whom you actually heard it from. So this person could have also been lying to you. So this would yeah, we would
So it
believe your
means
witness testimony, and I believe you that you heard it. You know, I don't doubt it, but I'm not sure if that person you actually heard it from actually knew it, and also all the empirical evidence that we gathered. So there is no radiation, there is no process possible that actually can pulverize radiation with the whole building without actually being seen or destroying the whole of New York. So like
okay,
physically, it isn't possible, and so I
okay,
believe you when you say someone told you, but I would not assume that the whole thing is true.
okay. You
But I
see,
also believe you that you believe.
if I knew about the nuclear demolition scheme of the Twin Towers after 9/11, that is another story. But the problem is I knew about it 12 years prior to this. Okay. And when it happens, and when the place is called ground zero,
Yeah, but
and
ground
when you
zero
see
is
not all
ground zero is
observable,
no factual evidence, because like as I said, I can send you this fucking movie, and in this movie
the
there
factual
will
evidence is, first of all, if something is called ground zero in the definition of 2001, that is the official definition of the hypocenter of a nuclear explosion or its projection onto the Earth's surface. This is the very if something is called a place of a nuclear explosion,
yeah, even if
that is
that's
the
the
place of a
definition in the
nuclear explosion.
dictionary, the movie clearly says that it in like a cultural way it was used in this different for in this different definition. So you can't say this is like 100% certain just because it says this in a dictionary.
Again, if you open a big unabridged English
No, I
dictionary
know.
that,
I've
that time,
read
that
everything,
is the
but
official definition of a hypocenter of a nuclear explosion. Okay,
so
so,
like in this
we have,
movie, so no, Dimitri, if that is actually true, so in the movie that was coming out prior to 9/11, they were actually talking about when they say ground zero, they mean the center of a nuclear explosion. Why would they do it in the movie where this clearly wasn't meant
because the
as
Freemasons like to make mockeries about future events.
so the Freemasons knew like 3 years prior and then decided they're making a random movie about this.
Of
I mean,
course,
this seems like
because the Freemasons planned 9/11, so they also can
so
make any kind of prior
okay.
mockeries
So
about.
how did the Freemasons actually cheat physics? So why didn't I see like a glowing red hot fireball in the middle of Manhattan that actually pulverized steel?
Sorry again, I cannot understand.
So there is no evidence of radiation, and there is actually like no process that actually can make the twin towers fall down in the way they
No, but
did
that is for
with a
you there
nuclear
is no
explosion.
proof. It is for you there is no proof of radiation, but for me there is proof of radiation, and for
Yes, I
me it
know,
is more than
but you
enough.
don't understand physics, and you also believe that the Masons actually made a movie because they tried to mock people.
I just don't care about the movie because it's not my argument. That is your argument. I
Yes, but
simply don't care about that.
it's also evidence, and I think you would find more if you just looked long enough. And why would I mean? There is no physical
Why the
evidence. There's
Freemasons make movie? I don't know because they have their own approach to many things. So they like to make
thing is the only
how to
thing you know the Freemasons exist because someone told you. You never seen them. You don't have any evidence. You just
of
say
course.
they did it of the Masons' existence. Because all I know that's like an old guys club and I can join them. There is like a website.
So let's how to say wind it up. So you say basically, I mean to make it in a human language, you say, okay, Dmitri, I don't believe you that you knew about the nuclear demolition scheme of the Twin Towers while you were commissioned
No,
officer.
if there
No,
actually
let me
were one,
finish. Let me
okay.
finish. You basically say that, okay, Dmitri, I don't believe you when you claim that you have to know when you claim that you knew about the existence of the nuclear demolition scheme of the Twin Towers 12 years prior to 9/11 in your Soviet special control service. You just say, I don't believe you. Second, you tell me, I don't believe you that you knew Mike Harari in Bangkok. Third, you tell me, I don't believe you that that the Freemasons exist. So I understand you correctly.
No, I definitely believe you when you say you actually, I mean, knew, you heard from someone that there is a nuclear demolition scheme under the World Trade
No, I not
Center
say that I
prior to
heard.
9/11.
No, 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 no,
There is
no.
a
I not
video
say
of
that.
you last year. You answered the
Listen to
question and
me.
you said
I
you
never
just heard.
say that I heard it from someone.
You
I
said
just
that you
say
heard
I
it.
don't want to specify. Very simple.
That's what you said today. But in the video last year, you answered you just heard.
Heard, it doesn't mean that I heard like in the means of hearing. I just don't want to specify that. You can consider that I was in the toilet and I found some used toilet paper where it was written. So if that is okay for you,
The problem
you
with
can
that
end
is
up on
you
this one.
specifically said you didn't even read it on a piece of paper. You just heard it. You said this in this video like a year ago where you answered
Okay, consider me
questions in the
liar
stream.
then. I simply didn't want to say where I get it from. I have reason for that because I want to complicate the job of the how to say, the operatives of the secret services who stay behind the shields.
Yeah, I understand, but
I
like
just don't want to make their life easier, just like that.
Okay, but then you're admitting to being a liar, and you said a free
Doesn't
man
matter.
can't be a
I can
liar.
lie for that reason. I can lie because I just don't want to make their life easier.
I mean, you seem like just to make up arbitrary rules as long as they
I can't remember
suit
what
your narrative.
exactly I say in that video. I have to review it. I
No,
just simply
it
can't
just
remember.
seems like you have very flexible principles, and
No, my principles are not flexible. My
you
principles
said
are
you
quite
can't
tough.
lie, but you lied, and under the laws of Moses, it's actually a sin to lie.
I
So
can't remember
why?
what was the context of that discussion, so I can't really.
I think I reminded everyone that you were just a witness to best case, specifically to a piece of paper where this is written on, like an
Yes, and that
intelligence document,
paper, to
and
remind you,
then
was found in the toilet, and it was half used already and have the brown matter on it.
no, you specifically said no, you didn't even read it on a piece of paper, you just heard it, and even gestured to your ear that you just heard it. And this like seems as a very big contradiction
I
if
just don't
you.
want to say where it is come from because I have reason for that.
I absolutely believe you now, but the problem is you said this 1 year prior, so
I
it's
can't
like
remember
the.
what I say exactly. I just don't want to explain this exactly.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
I not say yes, I not say no. I just don't want to say that. Simply. I not say that is a lie that I hear it from someone. Just I say I hear it, yes? I not
you
say
said
yes and I not say no.
you
You can't
specifically
accuse me
said.
of lying because I not deny that. I just don't want to say that.
I mean, now you're backtracking. Before, I
No, no,
think
no,
you
no. I'm
said.
not backtracking. I just say that I don't want to specify where I get this information from and in which form I got it. Okay. So you say
Yes.
that some time ago I claimed that I didn't read it, I heard it from someone. So let it be. I just don't want to confirm that. I don't want to specify. So
Okay.
you can't
Yeah.
accuse me of lying.
Technically true, but only if you said it a
I
year
say
prior,
again.
and
I
then
say
you just
again.
said. Now
No, no, no.
let's keep it.
Let me explain to you why I don't want to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that the Secret Service agents, I mean, when I say Secret Service, I not mean the particularly American Secret Service. I mean in general Secret Services like FBI, CIA, Russian FBI, Russian, how do you call it, FSB, and so on. I mean, in this sense. So my activity makes a big problem for them, I tell you. So they are very much interested to know in detail how can I learn that, okay? Because for them it's very important. So they use the shills to attack me and to extract from me or to subscribe me to have obligation to explain to them how I knew about this, okay? But I don't want to do that as a matter of principle because I don't want to make their life easy. I want it to be as difficult as before. That is why I always avoid answering this question.
No, that
It
I
doesn't mean
understand,
that
but
I am a liar. It only means that I just don't want to answer.
yes, I understand this, but
Okay?
so
So
you
very
would
simple.
think technically of me as a shield, right?
For no, I don't think so about you because I have difficulties to distinguish between a real shield and just a person who doesn't want to how to see the objective things. So,
I
for
mean,
example, yeah.
I think it's very difficult for me to actually accept that you say that I'm not objective because we looked actually at the physics behind it and all the evidence that was there. And
So
from
how
our
can you okay? Let me then ask you a question that you have to answer then. Okay,
sure.
I publish photographs that were published on the internet by Larry Silverstein that shows a big cavities under the demolished buildings of the World Trade Center, and that cavities shows a size more or less that you can approximate their size, and they show so even the smooth surface, and they show that the stone, the granite, that was the main stone in Manhattan.
Yes, I know what you mean.
So that it was like a flowing, like it was really overheated. So can you explain to me how these cavities can be explained, or from your point of view?
Yes, because this is actually I thought this at first when I read your book, I thought this is definitely proof that you're right. And that's also why I came to the Telegram channel. But then I think you know your administrator in the group chat, right? Craig, or Parasite as you might call him. You know him, right?
Yeah, of course. This is my administrator, of course.
Yeah, he actually posted then in the group chat that this is actually common for the bedrock in the Manhattan area. This is this happened because this was done through the ice age, through a glacier. It's just a long geological process. But this was that was the explanation. And then we actually asked like a student that specializes in this, and he basically confirmed what I said. So it's pretty difficult to believe you in this when two people and one even your administrator actually
so you believe
show
that
me evidence to the contrary.
Okay, so these cavities of the in the granite, you believe that they come from the ice age, yes?
In essence, yes.
So you prefer to believe that it came from ice age, yes?
Yeah, because there's objective empirical evidence for this, and like an expert opinion, you know. That's
and they selected to build a huge building made of steel, having a huge weight, just on top of these cavities, yes?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And can you tell me if these cavities were temporarily filled with something when the Twin Towers was still on top?
The cavity that you actually referring to, they were actually like extracted during the building process, I think. So there was no hole in there. The whole. I mean, I think you mean like the foundation, the cavity where the foundation of the Twin Towers was, right? Or what exactly you're talking about? I think I know the picture, but the picture actually just showed the foundation of the Twin Towers.
So I mean, So your explanation about these cavities is that these come from the ice age, yes?
I mean, the way that the rock, you meant that the rock looked like it was melted, right? And this look comes from the ice age.
From ice age.
I think so. I don't know the exact process, but like I think Greg or Parasite can explain.
So now the next question.
And the hole in the ground that you saw, that is actually the foundation of the Twin Towers.
Okay, so you believe that the cavities come from the ice age, and
no, the cavity technically not. Just like the way the rock looked, and the cavity came from the building process of the Twin Towers.
Okay. So at the time of the construction of the Twin Towers, in your opinion, these cavities already pre-existed or not?
I think they were the first things. No, they didn't pre-exist. They built it. They actually drilled in the ground. I mean, a cavity is a hole, right?
No, I didn't quite understand you. So you say that the cavities came from the ice age?
No, the way the rock looked came from the ice age. The
rock come from
the cavity was actually man-made. They actually drilled in the ground, because I think the gravity you're referring to, the hole at the basement of the World Trade Center, this is the foundation where this whole tower basically stands on, right?
So you mean that they dig the huge holes?
Yes, they drilled like I think 50 meters into the ground, so this
and they were
whole
not
thing could have a stable foundation.
And these cavities were not exactly square form to match the perimeter of the Twin Towers. They were just more or less round. You mean that, yes?
Sorry? I don't know exactly the picture. If you're actually referring to the cavity of... we would have to look at the picture, Dmitri. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but everybody can look at the picture because they are published. They are publicly available, thanks to Larry.
Yeah, but I don't know what exactly you mean. what
I
you're
mean
referring
that
to.
that if you look at the at this cavity, it is more or less round. I mean horizontally. If you the horizontal